The United States is in the middle of the worst shortage of workers in history. At the moment, every industry in the country is short-staffed. We're already seeing major disruptions occur due to the lack of qualified labor to perform the basic services our society needs. Many famous CEOs and business owners recently made the headlines complaining about the declining number of members in their staff. However, official numbers released by the federal government have been telling us a different story. They have been suggesting that there's no worker shortage, no unemployment crisis, and that things are going fairly well in our labor market. But the truth is that the number of working-age Americans currently unemployed is actually in the range of hundreds of millions. The actual numbers are truly astounding. In fact, the number of people out of work right now is way higher than during the peak of the Great Recession of 2008-2009. And as opposed to what happened back then, Americans are simply not coming back to their jobs, nor planning to re-enter the workforce anytime soon. Recent data shows that there are currently tens of millions of job openings all across the nation. Employers have been so desperate to find new workers that they've been offering some generous bonuses, gifts, trips, and of course dramatically raising wages to attract new employees. In some cases, they've been offering to pay for college tuition, handing out Apple Watches, and even completely waiving testing requirements for illegal substances. But even though all of this is happening, people are still not coming back. Last week, fresh employment numbers were released by the Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics. They exposed what the federal government has been trying to hide. Nationwide, there are currently 100,450,000 people out of the labor force, and that's up 38,000 from September numbers. October was the 14th straight month that the number of people out of work has remained above 100 million. But that figure doesn't give us the full number of working-age Americans sitting on the sidelines, because it doesn't include those who are officially unemployed. So to get to the total, we need to add in those technically considered to be unemployed. That number, according to the Federal Reserve, currently stands at 7.4 million, which gives us a grand total of more than 107 million people out of the workforce. With so many people on the sidelines, the labor market participation rate has remained stubbornly low in recent months, and it did not budge in October. Of course, this is already having a toll on the economy. In a recent note, the Congressional Budget Office pointed out that such a low participation rate in the labor force is threatening to shrink our gross domestic product, compromise our economic growth this year, and generate further federal outlays, as many who are not in the labor force are likely to enroll in federal benefit programs. So far, the government hasn't shown much concern about this situation, but the fact that we went from a historically low unemployment rate before the health crisis to a severe lack of workers should be very alarming to all of us. After all, our workers are the backbone of our society. The main question now is, why can't we get more people to go back to work? It's understandable that some of them don't feel confident to come back due to the administration's utter incompetence to deal with the health crisis. Sadly, hundreds of thousands may have fallen victim to the virus. Others may have been entirely pushed out of their chosen fields because businesses shut down last year and never reopened. Many of them are being impeded to do their jobs because of local mandates, and tens of millions are on the verge of losing their jobs as the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the OSHA mandate, goes into effect. On Thursday, the agency announced that employees in companies with 100 or more staff members will need to be vaccinated by the beginning of January or get tested for the virus weekly. The agency said that the companies that failed to comply would face penalties of nearly $14,000 per violation. Repeat offenders, or those found to be willfully non-compliant, can face a fine of $136,532 according to a White House official. For example, if we identify that an employer is willfully violating a standard, then that penalty is significantly higher than a workplace that is not willfully doing so, he said, adding that there also will be programmed or planned inspections where we do go to workplaces to check to make certain that the workplace is in compliance with the rule. Termination will occur if, after providing a facility with an opportunity to make corrections and come into compliance, they chose not to do so. It's official. We now live in an authoritarian nightmare. Although we're already facing an acute shortage of workers, the federal government's measures are about to make this crisis even worse. On Twitter, the co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics, Tom Bevan, has expressed his concern about the consequences this mandate will have on our supply chains. He warned, "I'm told that Biden's vax mandate for the private sector does not include carve-out for truckers, so all the biggest trucking companies in America, who already face major driver shortages, will see a percentage of their workforce quit. The supply chain crisis is going to get much worse very soon." The good news is that the deadline of the big OSHA mandate, which was scheduled to go into effect on January the 4th, has been extended by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, as attorneys general for several states, including Texas, Louisiana, and Utah, joined advocacy and business groups in the petition, which is questioning the legality of the order. That is to say, some of these jobs may stay safe for now. But despite what many people are thinking, this is not a definitive court victory. It is just a temporary restriction issued by one court to halt enforcement of the mandate while litigation proceeds. But this mandate will still be evaluated by many other courts. Actually, it wouldn't be surprising if that eventually gets to the U.S. Supreme Court. And given the current state of affairs, we cannot expect much from the Supreme Court anymore. In the meantime, the administration is already targeting companies that have less than 100 employees. They're now planning to create an additional mandate for small and medium-sized businesses. OSHA revealed last week that new federal rules are being analyzed, and the agency is seeking legal advice to determine if smaller employers with fewer than 100 employees can implement a vaccine mandate without undue disruption. The agency then later admitted that it is less confident smaller companies can withstand losing employees due to forced vaccinations. However, many officials argued that might not be enough to stop the mandate from coming through. It feels like they want to make it so there is no escape. If people don't do as they're told, they'll be unable to work anywhere. The threat of unemployment goes beyond the loss of a job and a steady source of income. It means that millions of people may lose the comfortable lifestyles they spent years building for themselves and their families. To make things worse, inside sources confirmed that the government is considering a national mandate for children that attend schools. The news came as a shock for many representatives who promptly contested the enforcement of such mandates. Senator Jerry Moran, during a Senate hearing, said, "I urge the CDC and the administration against implementing a vaccine mandate for students." When CDC Director Rochelle Walensky was asked about this, her response was not enough to calm down everyone's nerves. She said, "I will always encourage that parent to get their child vaccinated. and speak to them about the information and communication and education that they need in order to get their children vaccinated, Walensky said, adding that right now, at this moment, there are no federal vaccine mandates for students. But some local mandates are already keeping children out of public spaces. For example, in San Francisco, children as young as 5 have to show proof of vaccination against the virus to enter certain indoor public spaces like restaurants, entertainment venues, and sporting events, according to public health officials. The previous local mandate required children and adults over the age of 12 to show proof of vaccination before entering those places. Now, city health officials are extending the health order to children aged 5 to 11, arguing that the group is now eligible for the shot. Unfortunately, our leaders don't seem to understand that these mandates are one of the main reasons why so many Americans are losing trust in the government. The more they try to force people to do what they want, the more anger and frustration they spark in our citizens, especially now they're trying to tell parents how to raise their children. In the short term, the national and local mandates will keep forcing millions of highly qualified Americans out of their jobs. Needless to say, enforcing those measures while we're in the midst of the worst worker shortage in our history is absolutely insane. When it comes to the long term, these measures may result in another economic slump and also worsen the political divides in our country. History tells us that social and political divides can cause a nation to fall apart, and with these mandates, it seems like national unity is already out of the picture. People say that a house divided shall fall, and given that we're now facing divisions that may never be repaired, it seems like the stage is set for a societal collapse of epic proportions. Thank you very much for watching. If you found this video informative, we strongly recommend you to check out 7-Year Apocalypse, written by the economist Michael Snyder. Please keep tuned to our channel to stay updated with future videos.